On this installment of Creative Cabin Fever, I would get to catch up with my friend Alex again. This is actually our third interview. The first one kind of disappeared in the computer vortex, so nobody gets to see that one. Then he had the absolute delight to have me on his show, I guess, yeah, because I'm so phenomenal and all. And I got to talk about myself for a change, which is a really, really cool thing. So now I get to interview an interviewer, which is one of my favorite things to do. It's so interesting to get someone and twist that around on them. So how we doing, Alex?
I'm good, thanks, Rebecca. I got a terrible case of deja vu. Feels like we've been doing this for eternity.
Yeah, look, it's kind of like that. Like we were talking about the Eternity Stones earlier and all things comics, you know what I mean? So it is a constant with us.
What's funny is like this is our third interview. We have as many interviews as Ireland has had lockdowns. I feel like they're kind of synonymous with each other now.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So like, yeah. Look, we're doing one per lockdown, and we were having like a little conversation before this, and both of us were infuriated that someone gets to go to Washington, right, and represent us, right, on Paddy's Day when both of us can't even go to our friends' houses. Like, I think a country that is okay with one of their leaders making a snap decision like that based on vanity and yeah, actually I'm just going to keep it at vanity, like, because if I have to reshuffle my entire career around upskilling on Zoom, then I'm sorry, but you get to have a Zoom Paddy's Day this year. If I haven't seen my parents who live in France in over a year, you get to have a Zoom Paddy's Day this year.
No, I completely agree. Like, I think it's absolutely crazy, and the fact they put it down is, I think what annoyed me the most was they tried to justify it, saying like, it's essential travel. Like, that's what I don't understand. Like, by law, like it is now apparently a crime for me to say go over to my friend's house, sit with him, watch Netflix, order some food, and then come home. Apparently, that's a fine. It's a finable offense. It's a crime, whatever. But this guy flying over to a different country for Patrick's Day to hand some shamrocks to the president of another country is, oh, but that's necessary. I'm like, it really boggles the mind as to how appalling the leadership has been throughout this whole thing. And I think that just kind of underlines everything.
I agree, especially considering we have an incredibly strong postal service that I'm sure would have hand delivered those shamrocks just as efficiently. Okay, because like Ireland does have one of the best postal services. You can literally write the Vi Queen Waterford, and I'd almost guarantee a package would get to me. You know what I mean? It's just like phenomenal. Like I heard this story once about a guy who was singing in a local pub, and this American tourist really enjoyed what he had done that night. So she didn't even know his name, she didn't know anything, and she just described him briefly and the pub in the place he was playing. And this beautiful like letter of fandom arrived to this guy, only determined by variants and like adjectives. And I was like, well, if that's what can happen with the postal service in Ireland, like surely shamrocks can get to Washington just fine.
Absolutely. And again, it goes to the essential. It's like, do we really need to send the shamrocks to America? Like, I mean, it's not like the world's going to collapse if we don't. And like, I don't know, like, I know we were talking off camera as well about, kind of with the size of this country and the population that we have, it's just, by comparison, we're relatively the same population of New Zealand. And if you look at how New Zealand have handled things and how we've handled things, it's incredible what a competent woman in charge of a country can do compared to these ages that we have here.
Yeah, I know. Like they had their first music festival last weekend.
22,000 people. I mean, I know we're laughing, but like it's sad, and like I think it's sad how it's basically just been allowed to happen. Like, for example, like all this is happening, like, and they're going around saying, oh well, we've done all we can, we're doing a great job, and they're turning to the people of Ireland like it's your fault. And like there was this big report of X amount of flights were coming in from Lanzarote. And Micheál Martin's like, oh, well, people shouldn't be going on those flights. And I'm kind of sitting thinking, well, tell you what, I've got an amazing idea as to how to stop people going on flights. Why don't you close the building where the flights come out of? I mean, am I talking crazy or I don't know?
But this is the thing as well, right? So, in my opinion, Like,
Mm.
I understand we're in the middle of a very, very difficult situation and there's a worldwide outcry and there's problems, but people's
Yeah,
mental health are also severely being affected by this. And I
absolutely.
am not ever gonna rat out on Joey down the street for going on a holiday
Of
when he
course,
thought his world was collapsing. Like,
of
that's
course.
okay.
Yeah. You see, that's my thing. Like, I know as well they complained about Christmas, saying, the reason that we're in this lockdown again is because people went to the pub, people went to the restaurants over Christmas. I was like, yes, because you open them. I was like, if you have something open that people can go to, like, they have to do something. Like, I think it was a kind of deterioration because, like, by the first lockdown, I know myself, I felt like I was part of something. I felt like, okay, this has to be done. We're all together. By the second one, I was kind of tested, but then by the third one, I was like, this is ridiculous. I was like, the fact we've had to do this so many times, and we're in a worse position, like, and you've hit the nail on the head. That, like, mental health has been taken to the ringer, like, and I mean, it's just, it's horrible to see, and not just so much the case of people can't see each other as well, which is horrible, but it's almost like when they do try and see their friends and do try and get that bit of connection, they're almost vilified.
Not almost, like they are, like, and
Mm,
like we have people out there who are so scared and petrified that they're not leaving their houses and the only thing they can do is judge everybody else, whereas if they actually put that much energy and effort into looking at their own selves, maybe they could,
mm,
I don't know. But like, it's crazy. And you're right. Like, I mean, off camera, we talked about how last weekend I really wasn't doing very well at all. Myself and Amara's Entertainment, or Kozak, as he is also known, launched a brand new segment called Your Local 32. And we
mm.
said, do you know what? We'll start with Dublin and Waterford. Now, we had originally planned that he would do Waterford and I would do Dublin. And then I forgot about that plan and just ran ahead doing Waterford, right? And I was like, this is going to be amazing. I get to talk
Yeah,
about my city and how proud I am to be from here and all the incredible venues and festivals and bands. And I
yeah.
cried for 2 days because I am mourning the loss of my industry. I am mourning the loss of all the venues that I hold
Mm,
dear in my heart, all the bands I don't get to push anymore, all the things I'm not seeing. And it never even, like, in the lead up to this, it never even occurred to me that I would get so bogged down with sadness that it would be like,
yeah. Well, I suppose it's one of those. Although, like, you do your show and I do my show as well. Like, we talk about the industry and how basically been decimated. We talk to these different artists, but, like, kind of at the same time, like, we're involved in this as well. It's only when, I suppose, when it hits reality, when you are going to talk about your hometown and how things, I suppose, quote unquote, used to be, that's when it really hits. Like, oh my god, like, this is, like, for want of a better term, like, this is crap. Like, this is absolutely horrible what we're living through. And, like, I think it's also difficult for the performers and the artists as well, because, like, they're not given a time frame. Like, it'd be easier to say, we're doing this, but, like, X date on X month is when you'll be able to go back. But then it's a case of, like, I do think, unfortunately, in the entertainment industry, it is a case of almost, first to go, last to come back, which is, it's really horrible because there's so many talented people on this island.
yeah. And I guess that's why we have our platforms. And I think it's amazing
Mm,
what you do. Like, I love tuning into the
you,
chats live on a Thursday. Like, it's great. Like, and you have
you.
such a variety of guests that you have in there. And I love that.
Mm,
And I love how the idea came about. So, like, obviously, we did our first interview, and you've had a few interviews in between and different podcasts and loads of stuff. So, you basically were in work one day and you were like, I want to do a chat show. And then you ran with it and you just ran with it. So, here we are now, a few months down the line. How does it feel? How's that process been for you and that evolution of self and an idea?
it feels good because, like, I mean, it's something I never thought about doing. Like, and again, like, I was sitting in work and I actually got a message from a friend just going, hey, we're in lockdown again. Like, first lockdown, I was doing, like, a daily joke thing, like reading a little joke book that I have, and she was like, oh, I really hope you do something else. So I really enjoyed that the last time, and I was kind of sitting there going, what would I do? And I was kind of thinking, what could I really do that'd be good? And I was like, what if I had a talk show where I just could come on and talk? And then I was like, nah, like, I couldn't do a talk show. I don't know how to do a talk show, and I was kind of sitting there, and then I was like, if I had a talk show, what would it be called? Then I was like, probably be called The Chats. And I'm like, stupid name. No, I couldn't do that. I was sitting there like, no, stupid name. Couldn't do a talk show. And then I was like, well, who would I have on the talk show if I was to do it? Could I have him? Nah, they wouldn't be interested. I'm stupid. I can't do a talk show. And then a few minutes later, I was texting my mates going, hey, do you want to be in a talk show I'm starting next week? So it was like that. And yeah, like it's been a remarkable evolution because, it's been great in the sense that, I'm able to talk to so many different people I haven't had a chance to talk to properly. And, the way I do it is like yourself, I talk to different guests, like, one on one. And I really like that as well. And, I've had comedians, actors, like directors, writers, musicians, and it's allowed me to kind of talk to some people that I knew, but it's allowed me to meet so many people from other industries, like the music industry, different artists that I haven't met, like different comedians, different actors, and like even the likes of yourself. Like, I mean, we were put into contact by, I think it was Claire from Lipton Village, and like we never met before this, but now look at us. I mean, this is our third time talking. I've talked to you more than I've talked to most people I know. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's great.
No, but you're right. I also have more interactions with complete strangers than I do my friends. Like I have my son 4 days a week, and then I have 2.5 days to get my work done. And in those 2.5 days, I don't really see anyone because I have to be so dedicated to what I'm doing to make sure that everyone has a platform that.
Mm, exactly, and like it's so, I suppose, nice as well because with the entertainment, the arts industry, like it's so, for me personally, I was like, it's so important to have people that are like, come on and talk. And like a question I always get is like, what can I come on and say when I'm on your show? And I'm always like, well, look, you can come on and say whatever you want. It's 20-30 minute chat, like, and it's your time to say whatever you want, like whatever comes up. Like I always say that the only question I prepare for my show is how have you been affected by the pandemic. Apart from that, it's completely free range. Like talk about whatever you want. If you want to shout, if you want to scream, if you want to laugh, if you want to cry, like whatever you want to do. Like it's your moment because I think it's so important to humanize the artist because when people go and see a show, like again, you and I will talk to more artists in a day than most people will in a year. But when people go and see like a show or a performance, something like that, like they need to realize that as well as somebody been on stage doing their thing and their art, they are a performer, but they're a person, and like they're adversely affected by this, and they've got feelings. Their mental health has been brought to the ringer as well. So it's so important to give a platform to people to just speak openly, I think, about how this has been affecting them. And I've got some really nice feedback, like from likes yourself, and thank you very much. And like even guests that have been on, like they've said, God, I've loved being on the show. It was so nice just coming on and just chatting so casually, and not having to worry about preparing for questions. And that's the key thing. Like, I want to create a casual kind of atmosphere where people could just feel comfortable and talk about whatever they want.
Yeah, and my show, I guess, is pretty similar. It's all about the guests. It's all tailored to each person because I see it as my chance to give them a platform to shine their magic. And that's how it started. That's the evolution of Creative Cabinet Fever. It's like, okay, so you've been in lockdown. How's that been? And then it's like, well, you're magic because. So your magic because you're doing this very similarly to me and you're doing it live and you have absolutely no barriers as to who you'll talk to or what's okay, what isn't okay. And I think that's amazing. Like, obviously, I focus more on the music industry. That happened accidentally. That was never meant to be the plan. Like, I have another show that's for an art gallery in town. So I do kind of branch out a bit. But like, you started off as a comedian doing one joke a day, and then you had this mad notion to start a chat show, and here we are. But let's go back to the comedy bit. Like, so you're a comedian. How did that start?
Well, you see, it was actually funny. It goes right back until I was not until when I was back in college. I was a teenager, didn't know what he wanted to do. So naturally, when a teenager doesn't know what he wants to do, he does a business degree in college. So I did that. It was actually my last week of my fourth year of college doing business. I was thinking to myself, Jesus, because we're finishing college. What do you want to do? And I was like, I don't want to do any of this. I was thinking, I got my degree, don't worry. Like I got that, it went well, but I was like, I don't want to do it. I was like, what do I want to do? And I was thinking, I really want to like perform. I really want to be on stage and express myself. So I went to the Gaiety School of Acting and did a few part-time evening courses there while I was working. And I did like their kind of theater and stage courses, and I finished it. And I was kind of, lost for direction. So I went to a few different people, some of the teachers, some of the actors that I knew from doing the course, and even some of my friends. Like, I don't know what to do. And every one of them said to me, you need to do comedy. I was like, really? They were like, yeah. They were like, you're funny. Like they were saying, we like when you tell jokes. And I was even telling jokes back then, and people were like, the jokes aren't good. They're like, but you tell them quite well. They were like, you should probably write your own jokes. And yeah, from that I did I did the part-time comedy course in the Gaiety as well with a teacher called Danny Keogh, who's really, really nice guy. If anybody's, when we can, looking for a coach in comedy, if he's available, like highly recommend Danny. He's great. And just from there, I started doing different gigs and stuff. And I actually remember my very first comedy gig was a disaster. It was an absolute disaster because I was doing I was performing in Mullingar for a friend of mine now called Ross. He owns a pub down there. If any aspiring comedians are watching this, when you're able to do gigs again, go down to Ross in Mullingar in the Columbia Bar. My favourite venue to gig in Ireland. He's a great guy and it's such a nice pub. And the people in Mullingar are dead sound. It's actually a really underrated town. But what happened was I got the gig and a friend of mine is like a cameraman. And I says, hey, my mate's a cameraman. Do you want him to come down and shoot the show? He was like, oh yeah, we'd love that. So brought him down and my mate was setting the camera down the back, grand. And my first comedy gig, he's like, right, just go up and do a sound check. I was like, yeah, no, but I'll go up and do a sound check. So I went up and I had the mic and was like, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. He was kind of like, I'm like, yeah, 1, 2, 1, 2. And it's only then I kind of looked down and realized the audience was there. And there was these people in the audience kind of sitting with their arms folded. And one fella was just like, you're not very funny. And with that, the owner of the bar and the MC come up and go like, look, sorry, mate, you can't be messing on stage. Like, you'll have to leave. I was like, what? They're like, come on, you'll have to get out. I was like, I'm one of the acts. I was like, I'm one of the acts. It's my first gig. So I was the second act up on stage. And as soon as I got on stage, straight away, the audience were sitting there kind of like, oh, it's this guy. And the worst part about all this was when I was doing the show, no one could hear me on the mic. So not only was I dead on arrival, I was a terrible sound checker too. And I left that gig and I said, well, it can only get better.
Oh, that's an amazing story. And I love that you actually, you're like, okay, yeah, no, I am good at the delivery of things. Maybe I just hone that craft and make something of myself. And that's what you do. You're like, okay, 10 times an hour rule. This is something I love. I'm just gonna focus on that. And then we see where we land. It's amazing.
Yeah, like, I mean, my advice to people who are always, thinking about doing comedy, they say, like, what's the advice you give? And I always said, look, just go for it. Like, just go for it. Go out there and do your thing and just, give as much of yourself as you can on stage because, like, don't have anything back. Just go and just be like, what? Get it all out there, do your comedy. Because, look, the worst thing that's going to happen is, for some reason, whatever, like, depending on the audience, they won't laugh. That's the worst that can happen as a comedian. Like, the audience doesn't react. And that's happened to me. And it is quite, demoralizing, but, you get up, you do your next gig, and, your next gig could be up here, could go great. And that's the thing, like, it's almost like a drug. You need to get your fix of, God, like, that feedback is amazing. But it's so important not to get kind of, demotivated. Like, when we can gig, you'll have your bad gigs, you'll have your good gigs, but, the good gigs make the bad gigs work. And so, like, anybody who's, like, starting off, I'm always like, just go for it. Like, just be brave and go for it and just don't have anything back. Just enjoy yourself.
Yeah, like, I did comedy for a year. I don't think I'll ever go back, but I mean, I might. But if it wasn't for comedy, for instance, I don't think I'd have this stage presence. I don't think I'd be this comfortable talking to people in an open forum. So it had its purpose in my journey, and I enjoyed every single gig I ever did. And it was just same as you. Get up there. Just do it.
It's the only way you're gonna, I suppose, get over your fears. Like, I still get nervous before a gig. Like, before I go on stage, I get super nervous. And, like, even before I do the chats, like, I do sit there before the show and I'm like, oh God, here we go again. But I love it when I'm doing it. And, like, see, that's the thing as well. Like, it's the nerves that you need. Like, the pre kind of game nerves are, like, so important. And it's incredible, like, how many different people you speak to. Like, even artists, like, I've spoken to people, who are actors and who are in, the music industry, and they're like saying, God, they love being on stage, they love doing their particular thing, but they're saying when it comes to comedy, they're like saying, oh, there's my cat. When it comes to comedy, they're saying, that'd be such a difficult one to do because it's you and the audience. Like, there's no, I suppose, kind of barrier there, be it like a script or be it like instruments or like, singing. It's just, which are all remarkable industries, don't get me wrong, but like comedy is just so intimate, I suppose. It's you and them, and that's it. And it's up to you to basically, you're all right, cat, it's up to you as well to get out of my way for the time being. Come here, kitty. No, you're not interested.
It's gone from the chats to the cats.
So someone actually said that to me. They were like, Les Chats is French for the cats. I was like, yeah, but this isn't Les Chats. It's Le Chats. I failed French. Can't you tell? But like, I mean, forgot what I was saying now. My cats come on like going, look, it's all about me.
So you also have co-stars. So you have your cat. What's the cat's name?
That cat is called Tiger. She's my little tabby cat called Tiger. And I'm going to do something for a second. I'm going to unmount this camera here for a second.
Let's meet the
co-stars. A couple of other
co-stars.
little co-stars, one of which made his appearance on the chats the other night. Hey, you on the chats the other night, Charlie?
Hello. Hello, Pupper.
I've got young Charlie here. I also got the Simba guy here, my big fella.
So thank you so much for showing us Charlie and Simba and Tiger?
Tiger, that's the one. I have some other animals flying around. There's another cat and 2 dogs, but I don't think I can afford them. I think that my production budgets are out of the league. I have to keep building my audience before I can get those kind of stars to come appear on camera with me.
I love that yesterday was one of their 7th gotcha days, effectively. So 7 years ago, you got one of them, and the picture difference, like you're a young pup, it's a young pup, and today you're both hairier and bigger, and I love that.
See, that was like the thing I got back. I was like, oh, here's when I first got my little doggy, and people were like, oh my god, she's beautiful. This, and then it was like, Alex, you had short hair. Like, what the hell is that? Like, people are looking at me going, who is this guy? And even I had to kind of look and go, I remember him from a distant memory. But see, that's the thing. It's so funny, like when people like they see me with the short hair and they're like, going, "Oh my god!" They're like, "This is like blows their mind." And like it's almost like pulling back the curtain. It's like, hang on, you had to grow that out. It wasn't just there all the time.
That took work and time.
It took so much effort because like when you're growing your hair out, you go through so many dodgy kind of hairstyles where you're like, oh god, where do I put this and how do I push this back? And the greatest thing I discovered was a hairband, because my hair was going crazy, and as soon as I got a hairband, I was like, guys, this is the best.
I love it. I think it's great. I think I wear hats, like merch from different bands, like today it's the Job Seekers, because we're actually going to Cavan, and they are a Cavan band. So later on your local 32, I shall be featuring the Job Seekers.
Nice. I'll look out for that.
It makes sense.
It does. And I've really been enjoying your shows too. Like I've checked out as many of them as I can, and they're really good. I always really enjoyed them, man. I'm looking forward to seeing more of the local 32 and where it goes for you.
Yeah, look, it's a mad adventure. It's like, how many ideas can I pop out there and see where they land? It's cool. And it's a great team of us as well. Like, obviously, Claire is a phenomenal writer, as well as being one of the reasons that we connected. And the whole entire team with the magazine and the lives and the streaming events and all this, it's phenomenal. Like, but,
Like I was even fortunate to be featured in one of their magazines as well, and I felt so cool. And I was like, "Oh my god, thanks so much for doing a write-up." And I said that to one of my mates, and he was so sweet. He was like, "I feel like I'm friends with a celebrity." But there's something quite nice. Like although I love the Mars magazine as well, and like I love like the video chats and all that, and kind of doing podcasts and everything. But there's something still very nice about you, like a magazine and like kind of a feature and stuff like that as well. There's something still kind of old school about it. It's great.
Yeah, I know it's an amazing concept. It's a great idea, and I love that we're featuring like so many independents. And it's great to be able to do features on people like yourself or upcoming artists, because that's where the magic lies. Do you know what I mean? Like, and we talked about that. It's like it's great how Ireland always supports people after they're shipped off and they become famous, right? But
absolutely, that's why Father Ted was a Channel 4 production.
So I think it's super important in this moment in time that there is just independents that are fighting for independence, and it's a huge privilege to be part, even a tiny part of a team that's that dedicated to exactly that. And your write-up was really, really good, actually.
Claire's an excellent interviewer, and the way I actually met her as well, that was another connection. I worked with Gavin, the bassist for her band Lifton Village, so we connected. Myself and Claire connected through Gavin, and then yourself and me connected through Claire. So it's like 4 degrees of separation here. But like I've listened to Lifton Village as well. Like their song "No Offense" particular, I thought was great, and again, she's a really talented singer as well as a really talented writer.
Yeah, I know. She holds many talents. She just needs to see that about herself and hone in on her magic because she's a very special person. Her interview was just amazing. And she's who connected me with Kozak. And that's how all of this happened, you know? So it's mad, like the very, very small degrees of separation in our industry. Like, that's why I always tell people, it's like, be careful how you treat others. Like,
Yeah,
not that many of us on this island.
of course. And like, that's another bit of advice, like, as well as telling people starting out doing comedy to be confident. I'm always like, look, just be fun to work with. Like, just, if you're at like a gig, don't be sitting there. Like, it drives me mad when like you see people sitting there at a gig and it's like, oh, hey, what's up? Like, they're reading over their stuff. Like, yeah, hey, what's up? Oh, sorry, I have to focus. Like, I have to get this right. It's like, you've known about this gig for how long? You should have this right. And now is the time to say hello to everybody else. Like, that always drives me mad because, and the thing is, they never go away and do it like, in a room by themselves or up. They always sit in the middle of everyone and do it. And they're like, sorry, can't talk. Exactly. Whereas I'm always like, hey, what's up, guys? Let's have a laugh. And see, that's so important as well because, like, and that's one thing I've loved about this. Probably the only thing I've loved about this lockdown is it's amazing how we talk about the degrees of separation. It's amazing how many artists have reached out to each other and have kind of looked out for each other. They've all kind of been together. Like, even like when I was trying to grow the chats, like, I had people saying, like, oh God, I know such and such, you'd love to be on your show. My friend such and such has seen your show. And I had a lovely moment the other day where I messaged a guy going, hey, what's up? I came across your comedy page. I'd like to have you in the show. And he messaged back going, hey, yeah, I watch your show. It's great. I'd love to be on it. And I'm like, oh, that's so nice, and it's so good the way people kind of stayed in touch and connected with each other. It's great. And I think it's been so needed as well.
Yeah, I think it's incredible. It's incredible. Like, anyone who's putting the work in and making sure that everyone else is being seen. And it takes a lot as well, because I'd assume you never expected to be like in the public eye. Not in this forum anyway. Like, so comedy's very naked, and you're right, it's difficult, but this is a different ballgame.
Yeah, and like it's something that I suppose I'd never done. Like, my first episode of the chats was the first time I'd ever spoken to somebody as an interviewer, like, ever. And that's what I always joke on the show, like, when I'm going through question and doing things, I openly say to the people, look, I'm learning on the job. But I think, like, once you approach something, like, same with you with this, like, once you approach something and you care about it, I think that shows. Like, for example, like, one of my favorite films is The Room with Tommy Wiseau. And people know, it's not a good film. It's a terrible film. But the reason I love it so much is I love him. Like, he made this film and he was like, this is my film. I want to make it. He made it with so much love. And I love Tommy Wiseau because he was just as, I'm going to do what I want to do. No one's going to stop me. No one's going to tell me I'm bad at it. And I'm going to just get it out there and get my work out there. And I admire that so much about anybody.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like, irrepressible forces, I think, are very, very important. I myself prefer terrible films to good films. I have a penchant for things like Sharknado and Slither, the worst kind of films that are just test to be perfect. This week, for like a secret about me, because while we're there, I may as well talk about myself because I'm not as good an interviewer as her. You let people talk. I'm like,
Well, you're more interesting than I am.
No. But this week I've been binge watching Catfish, right? So the great thing about Catfish in season 8 is they're using our format, right? So they're using Zoom. Everybody's using Zoom, right? And I've just been watching Catfish and being like, oh my God, people are nuts. Like, people are nuts.
Like, I somehow happened to find Jimmy Fallon the other night, and he was doing this again, like, a Zoom thing, and I was like, hey, we started that. Actually, I also think it's funny like that because I found out something phenomenal as well, actually, going slightly off topic that I just thought of. There's a comedian, very, very talented guy called Alan J. Byrne, okay? Extremely talented comedian. And of course, I'm Alex J. Byrne. And I had him on the chats recently, and he was talking about his podcast. His podcast is called Chit Chats. And I was saying, I cannot wait to do a gig when I go up. And they're like, hi, are you Alan J. Byrne from Chit Chats? And I'm like, no, I'm Alex J. Byrne from Let Chats. Like, this is completely coincidental. And Alan's a lovely guy. And he's an extremely good comedian. And it's something that we always joke about. We were on a show together before, and we were kind of like, we were like that Spider-Man meme of,
That is so funny.
But what's remarkable about him as well is Alan has like a shaved head. He shaves his head, and I'm like this as well. So I'm always threatening him, I'm going to shave my head one of these days. And he's like, "Don't you dare!"
So obviously, like now, Alex, as well as obviously copycatting other comedians.
Better comedians.
Your words, not mine. Comedy's fairly subjective.
It is indeed, and I've subjected a lot of people to my comedy.
As have I. This whole interview is actually a lot more laughs than I thought it was going to be at the start. So, what are the plans going forward with Le Chats? What way are you going to take it? What are you going to do to change it up, ruffle it, rebrand, reshape?
I don't know. I suppose I'm kind of one of those. I'm still learning so much on the job and kind of keeping going. Like I'm astounded at how successful it's been so far. The people have watched and kept it going for so long. Like I've done like 13 episodes, so I've talked to like 39, actually 40 different people. And then like I'm like, how do I get so many people to come on and talk to me for so long? We're willing to have a discussion. But I suppose going forward, it's just learning more about stuff. I think I definitely want to invest in a new camera. Like I'm using my phone now, and I look at your kind of setup with the fancy camera. I'm like, God, that looks so good. And, even the mic as well. The mic is so fancy. I just got the headphones, and I'm like, hello. But yeah, I suppose I keep going with that and try and grow the audience as much as I can. Like I'm actually in the process of shooting a commercial for it too, which is an interesting one because I'm sure you can see for the t-shirt, Better Call Saul. I actually only got into that show last year and I binge watched the whole thing. And I just thought, Jesus, what a show. But I was watching the way he shoots his commercials. Like they're so cheesy and they're so low rent. I was like, what if I shot an intentionally kind of, cheesy commercial for Le Chats? And that's in the process now. I've actually, and again, like people willing to help me. Like I've had different artists who have sent me on like different snippets that they've recorded themselves for. I'm like, geez, like this is phenomenal. I need to get up off my own backside and record my bit and get it edited now. And yeah, I suppose the main thing going forward is just to keep enjoying it, keep having fun with it, because like you've had great success with this and it's going great for you. But at the very crux of it, like we do it because we enjoy it.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And like, I just want to remind you that this mic came last month. My camera was an upgrade 3 months down the line. It wasn't straight away I had a good camera. My first interview was done over Skype to France and is of absolutely dismal quality. My second interview was done in a dingy tent on my sitting room floor with absolutely no lighting whatsoever. Okay. So I've been at this 10 months and have incredible belief that all these things you have planned and all these upgrades, you will get there. Like it
Very
is
much.
one step at a time. Like for instance,
Mm.
I have never done a commercial. I look at Kozak's show and all his incredible like little bits and I'm like, one day?
Oh, but see that's what I love. Like even like looking at older episodes of the chats, and even like older comedy sets. It's amazing, like the evolution you see if you direct without realizing. Like I look at comedy sets that I did when I first started doing comedy, and I'm like, I would never say that on stage. That's terrible. And like even in my early interviews with the chats, I remember I did one where like I always had the same kind of setting here. I'm in front, my kind of backdrop and stuff, and one of the early episodes, my camera was off. You could like see stuff in the corner and stuff, and I was like, "That looks terrible." I was like, "What was wrong with me?" But look, it's learning on the job, and like you learn as you go on. That's part of the fun of it too. Like you pick up things you wouldn't have even thought of, and you don't know what they are yet because they're so kind of spontaneous that you come up with them. It's great, and I love it. I think it's such a unique thing to kind of learn on the job. It's great.
Yeah, I think it's amazing and I think you're doing a great job. As I said, I think you're a wonderful interviewer because you don't talk too much. A lot of interviewers tend to just pipe in there. You know your limitations with people, you know who you need to talk with. You're very patient, kind, and caring, and I think that's what's going to stand to you in the chats going forward. And I'm super excited to see this commercial.
I'm super excited to shoot it too. I've just got a feeling my part's going to be the worst part because everything I've received so far has been so bloody good. But I'm not like same to you. Like, I mean, I've watched your show, and like it's amazing how kind of much it's expanded. I know you're doing lots of work interviewing different artists, and even this 32 county thing as well. Like, I mean, it's great, and it's fantastic to see. Like, it's so good to see somebody do well like yourself during this pandemic, because it's bad news, bad news, bad news, bad news, and it's so nice to see something positive and somebody who I like do well. So congratulations to you as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I get quite uncomfortable. Like, I have days where I'm like, yeah, bossing it, and then other days I'm like,
Oh God, like there's two moods. Like there's two moods. It really is like it's like I saw a thing recently. It was like a meme of Bart Simpson from when he's like a kid, and it's like I have two moods, and it's the first one where he has like the pots and pans, and he's like, I am so great, I am so great, and the next one is just him on his bed, just like I'm like it's so true. Like it's just one or the other. Like there's some days you're like this is great, and there's other days where I don't know. You're just like God, you're like this is terrible. What am I doing? I know. And like that's the crux of it. Like, I mean, I suppose you're always striving for perfection with your work, and I'm my own worst critic. I'm by far my own worst critic.
I am tough on me. I mean, I'm really kind and caring to everyone else, but my God, do I give myself a grueling? Like, so I think that's part of what pushes us to. It's like understanding that it's okay to, be tough on yourself, but you also have to give yourself a bit of
Yeah.
like what you said there about me is probably not wrong. Like, I am actually doing quite well.
Mm.
It's just actually realizing that, and you know, but yeah,
Yeah. You're right, and that's like advice. Like my professional advice, like I said to artists and stuff, that I should just go for. My personal advice to everybody, like including yourself, anybody, just on a personal level, is like I think it's so important to always be kind to yourself because you're the person you're with 24/7. I know that's a cliche, but like you got to be kind to yourself. You really do, because you could drive yourself mad just thinking so many negative things, especially during lockdown when there's so much extra time to think. And that's the key thing. Like there's so much time to think, and you can. It's amazing when you're not doing stuff how many negative thoughts can kind of dwell. So, look, just be kind to yourself. Don't be so harsh on yourself. Like give yourself those moments to feel like that as well if you feel like that. But remember that you get through it, and there are better days, and that just remember that you're a great person, which you are, which everybody is. You just got to realize that.
Yay. No, you're completely right. Completely 100% right. Our words have power, and our self talk actually probably holds way more keys to way more things than we even realize. The things we say to
Yeah,
ourselves are exactly the things that create our sphere.
yeah. Like I even know myself as a comedian. Like sometimes I'm about to go on, and like right before I go on, as well as my nerves, I'm like, oh God, I'm like, my stuff is terrible. Like no one's gonna laugh at this, and it can be so hard to silence that voice, especially because I often say like when I've headlined a few different comedy clubs, so like you'd be like the sixth or seventh act on, and you'd be sitting there, right, watch the show. Like I love watching the other acts go on. Where you're sitting there, and like the other acts are fantastic, they're getting laughs, they're great. But when you're on after all, and I'm sitting there like shit. And it's that as well. Like I mean, there's so much kind of self-critiquing is such a kind of detrimental thing. I think it's common amongst artists, but like I mean, yeah, it's important to be kind because I mean, it's up to you to kind of I suppose be kind to yourself and let yourself know, like it's okay to feel crappy. I'm trying to find the right words. Like I was saying to something, you're important and you matter. Like you deserve to be happy, basically. That's what I think people need to realize about themselves. Everybody.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is wonderful advice. I think everyone should realize that they're magic within themselves. It's not just everyone around them is special. That same love and care you give everyone else, technically you're your own best friend for the rest of your days. You're the only person stuck with
Yeah.
you. So be good to you.
I love a particular quote that I like to live by and go by every day is a wonderful quote from Freddie Mercury, who based my favorite singer of all time. But Freddie Mercury said, someone will always be younger, someone will always be smarter, someone will always be prettier, someone will always be stronger, but they'll never be you.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes, not Freddie Mercury. Similar line though. Be yourself, everybody else is taken.
I love that one. Yeah, I can't remember who said that, but I think it might have been, was it Bowie or am I? Don't know if you
I,
heard that, but off camera. Hang on, it's like somebody wants her mama. Coco, you giving
Coco.
out to me off camera? You giving out to me? Do you want to be? Do you want to be on the show? Do you want to say hi?
Hello. Hello,
This is my
doggo.
young. This is my young friend that we had for 7 years yesterday. Am I right, Coco? You're 7 years here now. Oh, you're such a good girl, aren't you? Huh? You're a sweet girl.
Dogs and everything. This is the
What's that?
best.
What's that tail? What are you doing, Coco? Huh? What are you doing?
Oh my god, she's adorable.
Oh, she's a sweetheart. Look at that. Checking on her little mate.
Oh.
Good girl, Coco. Good girl. But there we go. We finally Coco at there she goes. She's off. She's like, right, that's my 5 minutes of fame. That's all you need. That's why everybody came.
Yeah,
it's
that's
like a little
certainly
cameo in a film.
that's certainly why I showed up for this interview. I knew there'd be dogs and a cat.
Now Willow's still hiding. Willow's the ultimate thief. She's like, no. I come out when there's I don't know. She's just like, I'm not showing up for anything less than $1 million.
Like, thank you so much for doing the interview today. That was great and showing us like a completely different side of you, or like just who you are and what you do. And I just want to stress that keep going. You're doing great. And that it's just been wonderful getting to connect with you and getting to know you. And everyone else should be watching Le Chats of a Thursday night if they've nothing else to be doing, or heck, if they have other stuff to be doing. I have recently been streaming several shows on one night.
Thank you. I like that thing. It's like, if you have nothing to do, watch Le Chats, and if you have something to do, cancel it. But yeah, I realized I should probably plug when and where to watch my show. So yeah, Le Chats is it's live on Facebook every Thursday night at 7 p.m. We're live from 7 to 8, where I interview 3 different people from the entertainment industry, be it music, acting, comedy, and just basically talk about things. If you look us up on Facebook, it's Le Chats Talk Show, or it should just come up if you search Le Chats. But yeah, that's where you find it. And like live at Thursday, 7 p.m. every Thursday. And you've been on as well, and you were absolutely great. You were my final guest before Christmas last year.
Ooh. You are my second last guest in January.
Oh, there we go. See, like, we're connecting now. When was that? You were on December 23rd, so it's ages ago. Jeez, and like that's been so nice. Like, I suppose that's one good thing. Like, being able to like meet the likes of yourself and stuff like that. You're doing all this. It's been great. I often joke, like, I'm saying to people, like, how are you finding things? Like, oh, very lonely during lockdown. I'm like, well, I've never been more popular. People won't stop talking to me.
I'm the same. Alex, thank you so much. I'm going to stop recording and we can go back to our chats.
Oh, for sure. Well, look, thanks so much, Rebecca. Absolutely delighted, Fionn. Thank you so much for having me.